It'll tell you how to do it. I'm not an agronomist, I'm not an agronomist, but I'm also not an agronomist. So put that type of compost you can find at any garden centre or supermarket really these days. These days as if I'm about 90 years old. How we doing everyone? We're here in the polytunnel, which if you have followed R2K Kitchen since last summer, you'll be well acquainted with. It's obviously a bit more empty at the minute, but that will be filling up over the coming weeks and months. What we're doing today is we're doing a bit with tatties, we're doing a bit with lettuce transplants, working with some lettuce, and you'll see some chopped suey greens next to it, some Mizuno, but we won't be working with them. So we'll be transplanting some lettuces that are in a line at the minute. I'm not good at all these horticulture things, I don't know the words. In a drill, I guess, but they're getting quite too close together. So we're basically thinning them out. We'll put them in a sort of separate drill there, and we will free them up. We'll make them about 6 inches apart. And then with the tatties, we'll be taking just a bag of tatties that were bought in the shop, and putting them into some tublets, which are basically just tubs that we put cattle licks in, but they're brilliant for this. You'll see a lot of folk use them, but I'll try and make it as sort of accessible to those that don't have access to farm stuff and that sort of thing as I can. So let's get into that. Here we are on the gorgeously sunny, it's always like this, Isle of Arran, with the dogs here keeping me in line. Nice view up on the hill today, scrunching my eyes. What we're doing is we are putting some tatties in the tublets, just the big lick tubs for cattle. Put them in there with some dung, as you'll see here, just dung from the farm, with some compost, about a half and a half mix, and then we'll pop them in not far under the surface at all. And the reason I'm filming this is I thought it was quite good. You know, quite a lot of the stuff I put up obviously has been filmed on a farm, and there's a sort of idea that it's on a farm, it's easier on a farm, you've got access to whatever. Now that is the case, don't get me wrong. What I have here, I'll delicately pick them up, just some tatties bought in a shop. These are, the variety is Aura, and Mum was just telling me she got them because her name's Laura and she wanted to be involved in the breed of the tatty, obviously. But where you go into a shop and you might see tatties and they're starting to sprout, is a bad thing. Yeah, you don't want tatties that are sprouting. You do here, because if they're not sprouting, then you're not going to have any tatty growth. So the reason I was lifting that bag delicately is it's mesh netted. If I was to catch on any of those wee sprouts, that would sort of, it wouldn't make it not grow, but it's obviously giving it a pretty big dent backwards. So yeah, we'll get into filling these tubs and I'll see you in a minute. That's me got the compost. Just type of compost you can find at any garden centre or supermarket really these days. These days as if I'm about 90 years old. So as I said, go about half and half compost and dung. Yeah. So one thing I forgot to say was, obviously I'm using dung, yeah, and that's the thing that I've just said. You can do this not on a farm. If you're just in the garden centre, which you probably will be when you're picking up the compost, look for a tatty fertiliser, potato fertiliser, and just put it in at the rate it says. Don't do it. I'm saying obviously dung is going to be you're going to have more dung than you are potato fertiliser. You'll put that in, it'll tell you how to do it. I'm not an agronomist, but I'm also not an agronomist. So put that in, do what it says, treat it exactly the same. Now what I'm going to do now, start putting the tatties in. I'm putting 4 in each of these tubs, sort of the size I can do that. You want to be as sort of minimally invasive as you can, so put a wee hole, you can't see that, a wee hole like so. Enough for the tatty, put it in, it's about 1 inch below the bottom, 2.5 centimetres for those that don't get imperial. Cover it over, and then same again. Remember, as I said, when you're taking them out the bag, I made a point of making sure I didn't damage the sprouts there. So sort of, well, you're starting a battle. That's them potted up now. Maybe if I was looking at it and thinking, you know, for next time, I could have put them, I sort of filled the pots maybe a touch too heavy. The reason I say that is for sort of getting the best out of these is once the tatties emerge, you're going to want to do what's called ridging. Now that's basically the plant comes out the ground and you want to build up the soil towards it to sort of strengthen it as it goes up, and you basically do that until it's at the height of the pot before they're taken out of the pots. So that's them now potted up, basically ready to be left on their own now, but we still have to look after them. One main sense, we still have to help them get watered, water them. These will just be left outside. What these tubs are, I forgot to mention this at the start as well, was we've drilled holes in them. So there's holes in the bottom, as I'll show you now, just there, and that's just basically so when you're watering them over time, you're not just basically filling the tub with water, because you can end up drowning the plant, sort of running off with the nutrients, that sort of thing. But these are main crop tatties. There's basically sort of 4 ages of tatties, 4 levels of maturing speed, shall we say. There's your earlies, your main crop, and your late. Now earlies sort of split into 2, hence 4. So you've got your earlies, your second earlies, your main crop, which these are, and then your lates. It sort of goes earlies sort of around that 11ish week mark, second earlies 12, sort of into the 13ish, main crop sort of 14, 15, late 16, and anywhere around that sort of bracket. So what that means, we're putting these in mid-March, 14 weeks. We'll be seeing these in basically July, sort of the start of July, that sort of period. But I'll keep you updated then, in 14 weeks. So I'm really wanting to soak these now. You want to keep them very moist really in weather like we have at the minute, very dry weather. You see that seeping through. There they are. And as that crop matures, they'll require more water, obviously. As big people require more water than little people. I might even go over them once more. The other thing I would say is when the plant's emerged, you've got that leaf above ground there. This is the case for most crops. If you can prevent actually putting the water on the crop, put the water on the ground, or the compost as we have here, then you reduce the chances of diseases such as blight sort of crossing over that water. It's a good environment for disease. And that's them now ready just to be left in the sun here. And we'll just leave them in this position and keep them watered. You're probably wondering why there's 2 different colours of hoses. If you look closely, the black one attached to the normal hose, it then seeps out the water in a sort of slow release format. And we're just going to put these in a perfect line so that, and then they'll be pinned in so that every time they're adjusted, we're not taking out a crop at each time. So just putting them in now, about 6-ish inches away from each other. So about here, create a little hole, maybe about 1.5 inches from the water pipe there. Pop them in, try not to damage the leaves. Obviously quite delicate plants. And then move on to the next one.